Yeah, actually, the main thing. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time and watching our videos with a really interesting and important topic. So my name is Valeriia, and we have as a guest today Charles and Harald. Thank you so much for coming. And today we'll be speaking about how it's possible to support Ukrainian players, Ukrainian tennis players, and why sport is important, how it can be supported, and maybe how it shows the maybe a bit of history of the country. And let's start our conversation. Maybe how did your story with the tennis start, Harald?
Well, there's my personal story of tennis. I always loved tennis. I didn't play it as a child, but I started to play intensely from when I was around 20 years old. So that has always been one of my passions. But the combination with Ukraine came to the fact that I've been engaged in Ukraine for more than 20 years. I set up two major institutions there. One is a historical research center, and the other is an art center. Both are located in Lviv. And so I've been going back and forth for many years, and have obviously many friends and colleagues, and I've always been impressed by the country and its people. And and then obviously the full-scale invasion started in 22, and in a way I brought these two things together, because I was thinking, what's happening now with these young girls and boys who are like ripped off, their life is basically taken away from them. They want to be professionals, they have a lot of energy, and now this war starts. So I was thinking, what should we do? And I thought we need to build up some possibility for these Ukrainian young players to continue their career. And I had been for many years playing with Charles as my coach, and we started to think, what can we do? And Charles had this connection to the tennis academy, Living Tennis, and we thought that would be a good platform to start this project.
Yeah, Charles, how did you react to the suggestion to help Ukrainian players?
So I reacted with great enthusiasm. I have a really good friend called Martin Lee with this Living Tennis, but it's Delgado and Lee Tennis Academy. They were quite keen to have really talented children to come to their academy. They've also got boarding facilities as well, so everything can be done on one site. So with Harold's great vision, we then went to Martin to see if we could look at setting this up at his academy. That then led for him to look for someone in Ukraine tennis who has real connections to try and find the next generation through this awful invasion going on. And then with that, he was able to find a wonderful guy called Seva who had been involved with a lot of the Ukraine tennis. So he put up an advert on the Facebook to have players participate in a trial. So we then brought over 20 players to Bisham, and we did a 2-week trial, and Martin would assess who should be selected in this journey. And what we wanted with the journey, with the enthusiasm and vision of Harold's, is we didn't want it to be like it done half-hearted. We wanted like a 5-year minimum journey through this to be done properly. So that's sort of like the starting point on how this vision became.
What was the main goal of this program?
So the main goal is for any children who were heading to the top 100 in the world for their dreams not to actually be stopped by what's happening. So our main goal was to select the best to be coming to Bisham, and then to be supervised under me and Martin's team, and to allow that dream to continue with Harald's fantastic support to allow them to be on the international circuit.
Yeah. Charles, how did your story with tennis start? And when was the beginning of it? And maybe the most successful stories, and with whom were you playing? If you could tell a little bit about your experience and your story, your dream.
Okay, well, I played tennis and I wanted to be a tennis professional, but as I got to 17, 18, I realised that my skills were not good enough to really make it on the tour. So I got quite curious to work out, well, why am I not good enough, and how I wanted to understand the depth of tennis. So I then went to a couple of seminars, and I met an amazing guy called Peter McCaw, who was working as number 2 at the Nick Bollettieri Academy. So I then went over and sort of like part-time went within his philosophy and a couple of other coaches out there, seeing how they were developing all these amazing players who were becoming world number 1. And there was another good coach called Gabe out there. And that got me to really understand a completely different formula to the game on how it was being developed. So that then led me to help my coaching skills get all the way up to a very high level internationally. And then I've worked with a few great players on the WTA, where we've had some, really good results, and seeing that happen, I'm happy to enjoy that journey through the player, and I admire the skills and the development that the players are doing. That gives me much more pleasure than when I was competing, because I could see my skill sets had inefficiencies. Now I can see that, but at the time I didn't really know that. So that would be the way I would say it. There's some, so I would probably present it that way.
Yeah. If you speak about this project, about this program, how long does it last, and what results are you expecting as well? Do you have any a certain structure of this project?
So with that background on how the Bollettieri Academy were developing these great players, we've gone with that framework on how they look at things through the journey of efficiency technically, and then working from the efficiency, how they operate tactically, and how are they navigating matches mentally, and then going through the process of a tennis match, how they're handling the winning positions in all these subtleties. That type of formula that gets you to see if the player's going to be able to cope at the top level, and if they don't, you get to see those clues through the framework on what was presented with these great coaches, that I'm able to teach to the players as well. For long term, we're looking for long term. That's why we say minimum 5. We've had the great support with Harald making this really possible, and also there's been a really nice group of people here in the UK, a guy called Joe Overvell and Hassan Sawyer, who run a small fund for underprivileged, ethnic children. It's called PET, Performance Ethnic Tennis. They've been funding my time to help the girls as well into this project, because they really like to give anyone who's underprivileged a chance to succeed in their goals.
Okay. So what is there, maybe, do you have any feedback from players now? Like, how do they feel about the whole project? Is it something they were expecting? Is it harder that they expected?
Yeah. The feedback is it's really intense, a lot more intense than they've experienced. The interesting thing is how I think Britain seems to be very professional within its sports, and you can, I think, the girls coming over, you can see there's a lot of hard work from the Ukrainian tennis structure that I see, but the professional details that the girls are being asked from and being pushed if they can't achieve it, there's definitely a mental stress that they did not realize was going on with when they're training.
Are there any other programs that you know who support Ukrainian sportsmen or tennis players in the UK?
I actually think we might be the only ones doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that also.
I don't know either.
No, I think we might be the only ones doing it, and that being brought up, that is because of the amazing generosity of Harald's support into this, which we believe in. One kindness act will spark another, so we would love if there would be more people who would be keen to join this journey of giving hope to future tennis players in Ukraine and changing a generation to the federation of the sport. So that would be definitely something I would love to say on this channel.
What does sport mean for the whole country and maybe for the representation of the country? Can it be like a way of influencing or way of spreading the word about what's going on in Ukraine, or like in general about Ukrainian sport, about Ukrainian culture? In which terms, in which ways can it be connected, sport and Ukraine?
Yeah, maybe I could say something about that. I think sport is a very powerful ambassador for a country. So we know that there's so much excitement, so much media presence in this world of competitive sport, and every success also of a tennis player is a success for the country. And even those who don't play tennis, I think they're a little bit proud when they see that one of their sports men or women are successful in the world. And I think especially now, as we have this terrible war going on, it is even more important that this kind of success happens. And as you know, Putin started his war saying that Ukraine doesn't exist, and started with this lie and many other lies about Ukraine. And it is up to us to prove that Ukraine does not only exist, but is also very successful. And that can be in many, many areas, also in culture, in education, in democracy, and it also can be in sports. So I think Elina Svitolina is a great ambassador for Ukraine. Also what she says and how successful she is, her strength, her resilience, it means something. It shows the strength of the country. And that's why when we support our players, it is of course very personal, because we like very much Anastasia and Katya personally, and we really want them to be successful, working together closely day after day. That brings something like a personal connection. But beyond that, it's really also about the country. And that's why I think it's a really, really important project for, yeah.
How does it help to improve connections between countries, for example, the UK, Ukraine? Maybe do you see any changes maybe in your professional environment? Maybe somehow like sport did help to know more about Ukraine?
think people have learned a lot about Ukraine. People who did not have Ukraine on their mind map, who thought that was all sort of Russia. Because of this war, Ukraine has become known as a different place to many people. I don't know how much sports really contributed to that. There were always big names in sports, like Klitschko, like Shevchenko. They were known, and people probably knew they were Ukrainian, but that doesn't mean that they knew anything about the country. So I think now we have the chance to combine that and show the cultural, historical uniqueness of Ukraine, but combine it with success stories of the young generation. And that can also be artists traveling around, for example, in the world, and showing how skilled they are. And people will say, you're from Ukraine. And that every little moment like that is important, I think. And that's why also this project has this potential to be an ambassador for the country.
Thank you so much for what you're doing and your messages you're trying to spread and to bring to other people. But I think it's all need like support. And in which ways is it possible to get funding for such important missions? And maybe how is it possible to encourage other people to support sports and young talents?
Yeah, that's, I think, a good question. That's what we are struggling with. We need to make this known, and this is one possibility to make it known. I think not many people are aware that this project exists. So we need to, first of all, spread the news, right? And then you need to create something like empathy among the people who potentially could be sponsors. So, and for that we need to create maybe little events bringing potential supporters to us, to the academy, that they get to know the players, the place. And I think through these kind of experiences, you can win potential supporters. But it's a lot of work, and and so far we haven't been very successful. It's mainly me supporting the project, but we need to keep on working on that. Yeah.
And what is the current situation with the sports that you see, maybe what you observe in Ukraine, in Lviv, for example, or how is it supported in Ukraine for young players? If you can tell something about it, if you see like any changes with the war, or is it on the same level? Obviously, everything is changed now, but maybe your observations.
I think it's become more difficult. Lots of infrastructure has been destroyed. Many young families have left the country, so I don't have the numbers, but I think there are lots of professionals, young professionals who would have not been in the country anymore, and trying to cope with the situation. And you have the whole psychological weight of the war, which can stimulate, of course. It makes you maybe stronger, but it can also have a very bad effect on the individual person. So I think the war is not a good thing for anything, and also not for sports. But it's incredible what some sports teams are also having, what they have achieved, like the Ukrainian football team, for example. They've been playing some great matches, games, and even though they have the situation at home, so there's a lot of still positive energy possible despite of everything happening.
Where are the players from? Like the players who you are supporting right now, like which cities are they from, and do they have any plan to go back, or are they going like to stay here in the UK, or if it's possible? Do you know any plans of the players?
I mean, they're both from Kharkiv, and they go home. There's individually the situation is different. Maybe you know more about what their plans are, but at the moment I think they are quite happy that they are here, but they're also very much connected, obviously, to Ukraine. They also do this online school program, and they have their parents partly in Ukraine, or their families partly in Ukraine, partly in the West. But I think they are. If they succeed in their sport, they are anyway very mobile, right? Tennis is such a sport where you are never anywhere at home, right? You pack your things and you go to the next tournament. But I mean, they are still, I think, dedicated to their country, and they understand that their success is also the success for the country. Yeah.
And maybe what can sport and tennis bring to their people's life? Maybe if they start like playing tennis, playing sport, how can it change their lives? Maybe their physical abilities, and maybe mental abilities as well. Like what's the impact? Maybe what you experienced with when you play tennis.
So on just a tennis question, I mean, I think as time's gone by, as I've been in this sport for a very long time, and you get to learn deeper and deeper about the sport, I definitely think tennis is one of the best sports for a human to be receiving. One of the reasons is when you're playing the sport, it's 50% you, and 50% your partner or your opponent, but that means you're getting quite a lot of activity. Where if you're playing football or anything, I think it's something like you only have 2 minutes on a ball. So that's sort of like an interesting sort of experience. Second experience, which is really impressive, is the physical development. So physically, it's maybe a good hour is equivalent to 10 kilometers running that your body's gone through. So you go through a lot of physical sort of experience with that. So you're not just like all your muscles are being used. And then the next bit you're using is the brain. And actually, the brain is having to make decisions all the time. So you're being very stimulated mentally. And in fact, there is research in the last several years that says tennis, you're living 10 years longer because the thoughts are activating the cerebellum in the back of your brain that's connected to your nervous system. So there's really good research that's showed that. The other thing with all of what I've just said, that I think it also gets you really good at building mental strengths, because with the tennis ball, it's got to go in the lines. So if it's in the lines, you're alive, and if it's on the other side of the lines, you're out, you're dead. That's the loss of the point. So the consequence is quite extreme, and then you've got to learn how to respond to that. So one of the things I think you only can control in life is the way you respond to things. So tennis is doing that constantly, point by point for like hours. So your mental toolkit that you build up towards your personality will be very, very effective when you get into your 20s, 30s, and if you take it up later, and it's really interesting what comes out of your personalities in your 30s and 40s, on where you start learning about yourself and how you choose to react to things. And then the very final thing that tennis doesn't get to sell itself in this way as well, when you get better at the game, the feeling of a really good tennis shot is a feedback in the body that not many sports can do, and it actually gets quite addictive. So quite a few people, once they get to a certain skill set, they start to really love the feedback of the tennis ball and the tennis racket, and even that's like an accomplishment within itself. But that doesn't really get said. And you don't know that when you're seeing it on the TV and you see them hit these amazing shots. You just think it's just a yellow fuzzy thing just bouncing back and forth. But actually, there's amazing feedback that gives you a great feel to the game, and there are quite a lot of just recreational players that become really addicted to that amazing sensation that it gives you. I think maybe the next one would only be golf, but yeah, that is how I explain it.
Charles, what about you? Do you agree with all this, like the feelings and addiction to the game?
Yeah, I'm definitely also addicted, and I totally have that same experience or sensation when you hit a perfect strike. It's just so great. But of course, your question was also how will it change the lives of the players with whom we have been working. It's a dramatic change, of course. Like if you look at their peers who are in their lives, and then you have the chance to become a professional in sports, that has a huge implications in your personal life, right? And there's not a lot of compromise to make with your socializing, with your what you eat, how you arrange your private life. You have to dedicate 100% to the sport, and that's really, really tough. And many who are maybe very good at the age of 15, 16, they also at some point they just can't continue because they don't have really enough probably will to go through that, what really is required for a professional in sports. So and in tennis, obviously, you have a huge majority which gets stuck somewhere in the ranks of 500 or maybe, and never make it to really earning a living from sport, and only from the rank of 200 or so.
I think that's about the starting point. It is a little bit unfair because the standard of tennis now is incredible, and the people who are at 300, 400, even though it says they're 400, their skills are way beyond that. But the game it's a search to be top 100, which it's a bit unfair because I think the standard is so great that the top 400 would be great if that was a way of making a living. I mean, I don't know how many people can say they're 400 in the world at their job. That's a really good way of like comparing the situation, because if you're 400 in the world in tennis, you're still losing maybe 20,000 every year. You're negative every time you're on the tour, so you have to get to like 200 for it to start to be positive for you. So yeah.
Sorry, 200. Is it a score or what?
It's
what
a
is
ranking.
That's a ranking. So you'd be 200, and if you're 200 in the world, you're probably starting to make maybe positive 15,000 a year, 20,000. So you're covering all your expenditure, and you then, for the first time ever, you're getting some profit back. That's about the tipping point. Which it would be nice if that was further down, because the standard of tennis is really impressive now in these days.
Yeah, and those who are really in the top 20, they make millions, right? This is such a huge difference. They are, even those who are playing in the 200s are fantastic, and they're really good players, but they'll never get there. This is tough.
Yeah, but good luck to the girls.
Good luck to the girls.
Just a huge belief into them.
Yeah.
And Charles, if you could tell a bit more about your career, about like with whom you were playing and your favorite games.
Who I've coached, or
who you coached and who you were like playing as well. Like,
who I played with.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't high enough to be playing with all the people you might see. I mean, if I was to reflect, there's a lovely gentleman who was way better than me, but we were in the training on the court. There's a guy called Connor Nyland. He was 112 or 11 in the world. He achieved really well. That'd be about probably the sort of like the best I could say on a playing point. But coaching wise, fantastic player called Tara Moore. She's got to 130 in the world for singles. She's like got to like 80, 70 maybe for doubles. There's a lovely girl called Beth Gray. She got to 270. She's great. Another wonderful player called Colin Perry. She got to like again 130. You know, but really these girls are, you know, better than that, to be honest with you. So we've been on the tour with them, and that's been really pleasurable to do that.
And even from Ukrainian side.
Who have I actually worked with?
Yes.
No, the girls I'm meeting in this project are the first. So I'm getting to see the Ukrainian culture, how hard-working they are, how well they take pain, actually, and that's been really interesting from just my perspective. So no, these are the first Ukrainians. Then hopefully we'll be seeing them a lot more over the next several years. Yeah. I think one of them's really targeting Junior Wimbledon, maybe as early as this year, and then next year we're looking for both of those girls to be playing in that.
Yeah, and it's really impressive how good they are, and I feel that we had these few occasions where I was able to play with them, and I was lucky if I made 1 point. You know, even though they are so young, someone of my skill in tennis, which is not so bad, have no chance, you know, against this. I find that very impressive, you know, and that age.
It's motivating, and thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much you are doing, and good luck, and all the best. Wish you only success with your program, and hopefully maybe you'll get another initiative, you'll have more ideas, and just really wishing you all the best in your way.
Thank you, Valeriia. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.